Hi and welcome again. I must apologize for the lack of momentum since you've joined. I've just had a bit of a crazy deadline and I'd hoped to post this earlier. I once again want to acknowledge what you're all going through. In reading the answers to the questions that some of you responded to, or many of you responded to, I could just hear the helplessness, frustration, resentment, and I want you to know that I can really relate. And it's part of the reason why I'm sharing my story. And as I also said in my post, I'm sharing it because I know that a big part of healing is to be able to share your truth and to be able to ask for support and to realize that you are allowed to speak your truth and to ask for support, because a lot of us who are tired are people who have just always been very self-sufficient and done it alone, and that's what it often leads to, the exhaustion. And so just talking to speaking about the personality characteristics, as I shared in my first video, I've met most of those. I grew up needing to be in control, liking to have a plan, liking to doesn't sound right. Anyway, I liked being organized and having a plan. I wasn't very good at being spontaneous. I was a people pleaser. I was a very good girl. Didn't like people to see me angry. Meanwhile, I was often very irritable and grumpy. Um, I was very empathic, took on other people's stuff for them. I was very conscious of what people were feeling and very conscious of people not being unhappy with me, or being angered by me. So there was a lot of protecting of people. And I pushed myself 110% in everything I did. And I eventually couldn't hold it all together. In university, I crashed for the first time. But it was more mentally. I started to have panic attacks. I realized now I was pretty depleted then, but I started to see a therapist, and it was the beginning of the journey for me into understanding why I need to be in control and just having a consciousness of not feeling safe in the world, not feeling like I was in control, feeling powerless, and where this had all come from. Um, so that helped a lot. And I then lost my father when I was 22, and I tried to deal with it on my own. I don't know why I thought I could do that, but I tried to deal with it on my own, and it ended up with my mum convincing me, listen, you actually really need to see someone. So I went back for therapy, and I was very grateful for that. And again, just explored, because that had massively triggered this kind of, I have no control in the world. Anything could happen. The world is not a safe place. So I need to, I had spent my whole life holding everything together so tightly so that I could manage it, so that I wasn't going to be in, nothing bad was going to happen. And now kind of the worst thing that could have happened. Following that, I started to study psychology, and I worked really hard as usual, as I tended to, and I pushed myself too far and ended up becoming very stressed. I manifested as this is the first time it was very physical. I was very dizzy and very, very tired. And I was diagnosed I went to the doctor, and he said it was stress. So I took some time out. I bounced back fairly quickly and continued with my studies for 4 years, and then worked in the correctional services departments or within correctional services. And that was when I really had burnout, that it was where I was like, okay, this is something big that's going on here. So I was just constantly sick. I literally I would be sick for 2 weeks, get better for 2 weeks, and then be sick again. I was dragging myself around. I would get home, crash, and I was just beyond tired. I wasn't even wired. I must have gone through that point at some point, but I don't remember being wired. I just went straight into being absolutely tired. And I'll explain the wired and tired thing later when I talk about adrenal fatigue. So I was just very, very tired. I was dizzy. I was foggy. I couldn't think straight. Couldn't remember things. I felt helpless and depressed. So naturally, when I went to the GP, he looked at these symptoms and he went, "Oh yes, you've got depression." And I knew he was going to say that, because that's what I would have said too, and that's what I was thinking. But I also knew it was more than that, but I didn't have an answer. And that's what he had in his toolbox. So that's what he gave to me. So that was the diagnosis. You are depressed. So I left the job and I started my own practice, which was hugely empowering. It was very good for me, but I've continued to push myself. I had my first child and had a traumatic birth where I lost a lot of blood. I had 8 pints of blood replaced through blood transfusion, and was surprised when I got home and couldn't walk to the end of the road. And this just speaks to how disconnected I had been from my body. And I remember, I mean, looking back, I used to push myself way beyond what I was physically capable of. My expectations in my brain of what I was able to do far exceeded what I was physically capable of doing. And I just wasn't listening. I pushed myself to be the perfect mother. My daughter didn't sleep well until she was 4. She had reflux, and she just has never been, wasn't a good sleeper. So I wasn't getting sleep, and I fell further and further into this black hole. And I was depressed. I felt helpless. I was exhausted all the time. I didn't have enough energy. If I had to do one thing in that day, I would kind of try and save my energy just for that one thing, whether it was to do the washing or just go to the shop. That was what I'd save my energy for, and half the time I could barely manage that. Um, but at the same time, I was completely wired. So when I tried to sleep, I was like, my brain was going 100 miles an hour, but my body also felt like it was wired. It was just this wired feeling. And sometimes it felt like the bed was actually moving. That's how wired I felt. I was nauseous. I craved salt. I craved sugar. I was irritable, very, very irritable. Um, and fortunately, my sister is a functional medical doctor, and she recognized it for what it was at that point. And after the necessary tests, I was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue. So I started the necessary supplements and bioidentical hormone treatments. Started eating a healthy diet that wasn't inflammatory and didn't stress my adrenals, and it made a massive difference. But of course, as soon as I felt better, and this I've seen so many of my clients do this, I crashed again. Because I was so used to not knowing what normal was and not listening to my body properly, that when I got back up to out of the red, back to baseline, I thought, oh, I'm great now. I can do everything that I want to do. And I went straight back into red. I didn't build any resources. We need to be up here. So when we're stressed, we dip down. We don't dip below the baseline. Um, and so I then realized I need to really change some things about how I'm doing life. And so I delegated, I asked for help. I was less of a perfectionist. I explored this more in therapy. I went to see I started various different other working with other practitioners. So I was seeing an acupuncturist. I had someone do acupuncture for me regularly. I went to an osteopath to work with alignments in my body. I went for regular body talk treatments, massages. Obviously, it costs money. That's the other problem, and I wasn't working. So then I pushed myself to start working, and then once I started working, I crashed again. But I also, in the process, had another child, and so I never really regained my strength and my resources. So I crashed again. Same process: supplements, diets, all of that, the bioidentical hormones. Started to feel better. Again, once I felt better, I tried to keep myself balanced, but I was really battling to figure out what is this balance thing for me, because I'd never really done it. And so eventually I crashed again. Um, and each time I was very frustrated with myself, really hard on myself, because I wasn't living the life that I wanted to be living, and I just wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And how come I kept crashing? What was wrong with me? And then finally, I'd really been working with this need to be in control. I wanted to stop living small. I wanted to let go of all these coping mechanisms, and it was as if the world or the universe had just said, okay, you're ready. And I had a number of different traumas. I experienced a number of different traumas within a couple of month period, and it triggered hugely again that I'm not safe and I have no control. I actually have no control over anything. And I was finally ready, and I just looked at it and thought, okay, Kerry, this is your opportunity now, because I crashed again. This is your opportunity to really shift this. I can't keep depending on all this external stuff, the supplements and the diet the food that I'm putting in my body, and the bioidentical hormones. I need to figure out what I am bringing to this that is making me drive myself and create so much stress for myself that I keep on crashing because I'm making my life harder than it needs to be. So I started to really work with releasing those beliefs around safety and control. I made a very conscious intention. I'm going to let go now. And it was hugely powerful. I believe I was just ready. And things shifted massively for me. I started to put boundaries in place that I hadn't had in place before. I let go in all sort of areas of my life. My poor husband had me saying to me, okay, this is what's going to happen now in our relationship. This is what I expect you to own and take responsibility for. He's been amazing. My husband's an absolute gem. Through all of this, he's been incredible, and I'm very fortunate. But I've had to also be strong and clear about what my needs are. And I had to become very clear with myself what my needs were. In all of this, I started to step into my truth. Who am I when I'm not trying to be what I think everyone else needs me to be? And as a result, I've come to this amazing, amazing place where I realize I want to teach. I want to share what I know. I love working with clients, and I'm seeing the results of what I've been doing with so I started basically applying what I've been doing with my clients to myself. It's always easier to do it with others than to do with oneself. And I was like, okay, now I'm ready to share this. And I just felt like I was really aligning. I feel like I've aligned with my truth. And in doing so, receiving energy and receiving the most phenomenal synchronicities and all sorts of things happening that's just been magical in my life. It's just helped me to find ease and energy and flow. And it's literally because I stopped getting in my own way. So I want to share this. I really want to share this with other people because I believe that we are all capable of this, but we just need to know how. So please keep watching the videos that I post. The next one I'm going to post is going to be around the physical aspects behind adrenal fatigue, different reasons for fatigue, including things like adrenal fatigue. And then I'll go on to more around the psychology behind exhaustion. And I'd love it if you could please comment on this video, share if aspects of my story resonate with you at all or not at all. Just a little bit, share as little or as much as you feel comfortable with. And any questions you might have as well. All right, so as usual, take care of you. You are the best person to do it. And I hope to help you with that as we go along. Okay, goodbye.